before we discuss the ethical issues presented in the social dilemma, let's talk about first the what is the documentary about. Do you guys want to share something like your what is your understanding after watching that documentary?
What makes this documentary interesting is that many of the people interviewed were former employees of major technology companies. Instead of focusing only on the benefits of social media, they reveal how these platforms are intentionally designed to keep users engaged for as long as possible.
One statement that really caught my attention was, if you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. That quote made me realize that social media is not actually free. In exchange for using those platforms, companies collect our data, study our behavior, and even use that information to influence what we see online.
For me, the most striking part was realizing that social media doesn't just compete for our attention, it tries to change our behavior and influence our choices.
I agree. After watching the social dilemma, I realized that it is not simply about the technology itself. It is challenging us on about the ethical responsibility of technology and the responsibility of us as a user. With this in mind, let's now examine some ethical issue presented in this documentary and try to analyze to better understand the concept about the ethics in the information age and the virtue ethics in this documentary.
Okay, for the first ethical issue, civilized capitalism. So, Angela, do you know the meaning of if you're not paying for the product, then you are the product?
Yes, I'm very familiar with that. It means that if a service is free, our data is probably what's being paid for.
Yes, correct. And it is used by the tech giants as a free raw material for translation into behavioral data. Basically, they are making our life a raw material and making business out of it.
Oh, that's why whenever I react to a post like cosmetic makeup or even shoes, my feed suddenly gets filled with similar recommendations.
Exactly. They called it data a proprietary behavioral surplus. It is inserted in the AI to generate prediction products. They sell those predictions to the advertisers through behavioral future markets.
That's really concerning. It means our everyday actions online are constantly being tracked and used. In the information age, we need to stay aware and responsible to protect our privacy and choices.
And as for my personal experience, I often check my phone from waking up in the morning to before sleeping rather. And because of this, I can't help but feel intense anxiety and envy when I see the seemingly perfect life, expensive vacations, or other people's success online. I forget that these are just created highlights and my emotions are being used by the algorithm to make me spend more time in the app.
I agree with that. I realize that issue isn't just data, it's how AI influences our choices and keep us hooked. For me, utilitarianism and responsibility best explain this issue. Utilitarianism it questions if personalized content is worth the harm, while the responsibility reminds both users and tech companies to use data ethically. So, Micah, what virtue do you think is most crucial when dealing with this issue?
I think for me, empathy and responsibility are important. It because if technologies create values, this if technology creators value these virtues, they will prioritize people's well-being and privacy instead of focusing only on profit.
That's right. To sum up, our online behavior is closely connected to how algorithms influence what we see and how our data is used. Think before you click and be digitally responsible. Post before liking, sharing, or searching, and make sure the information is reliable before engaging with it.
Another ethical issue that we notice in the documentary is the misinformation and polarization. We can see this when Ben keeps getting recommended similar content, and over time, those information he sees becomes more extreme. Another example is the control room scenes where the algorithms constantly decide what the contents and what the notifications to show him. From a utilitarian perspective, misinformation is unethical. Why? Because it can harm many people by spreading confusion and also false belief. How about you, Charlene? What virtue do you think is the most important when dealing with these issues?
For me, it is the truthfulness and responsibility because it helps us to remind that we need to verify the information before sharing it to others and to consider how our actions online can affect others. I can simply relate this on my personal experience back when I was in high school. I saw a Facebook post telling that there is a class suspension since the number of share, and comments are increasing, I assume that is true and immediately send it to my friends. But later on, my teacher told us that the information was fake. From that experience, I realized that how information online keeps spreading as much as we know.
Actually, I had a similar realization. One habit I've noticed is that when I'm interested in a certain topic, I keep watching those videos, I keep searching those videos about it. Then before I know it, my feed is filled with the same kind of content that I searched earlier. And sometimes it feels like everyone agrees with that opinion, but in reality, it's just what the algorithm keeps showing me.
Because of that, I think individuals should adapt the virtue of the fact checking information before sharing it. As I said a while ago, information in the digital age and the social media in the internet spreads quickly as we know this. So by adapting that kind of virtue, it helps us to prevent some misinformation or disinformation and prevent us from harming other people.
I agree with that. And I think for the technology companies, they should take greater responsibility for the content their algorithms promotes. Like instead of focusing more on engagement, they should prioritize more on accurate informations and expose users to a wider range of perspectives. With this, we realize that many of the issues discussed in the documentary are the things we experience every day but rarely think about. It made us reflect on how much time we spend on social media, the content we interact with, and how easily our opinions can influenced by what we see online. More than anything, the documentary reminded us that to be more aware, to be more responsible digital users. And at the end of the day, social media can be a powerful tool, but it is still up to us if we using it wisely rather than letting it control our choices. Thank you.
Thank you.